As much as there's talk at Texas about a potential coaching change, there's technically talk about it at Michigan too. I think it's an apples to oranges comparison though. So Penn State beat Michigan yesterday, 27-17, I want to say was the final. And the Michigan situation, I understand, does not make sense for a lot of you. It just doesn't compute. If you're an LSU football fan or if you're a Florida State fan, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you look and you say, hey, I'm not even a fan, but I'm just kind of watching because I love the sport. This program seems lifeless. And these players really do not seem engaged. And this head coach, he's on autopilot, man. It's like lights are on, no one home, deer in the headlights sort of deal. Everything seems to be operating at like 50% capacity, and they're not going anywhere. They're just dead in the water. And so it makes sense to you that Jim Harbaugh should be on the hot seat, or maybe they already should have made a move. And at the very least, it seems it should be an inevitability in most of your minds that a change is imminent. Now, if you're a Michigan fan, or you're a Michigan alumni, or if you're a former player there, the situation makes a lot more sense. There's just a culture at Michigan. It's a little bit different. In fact, it's a world different than a lot of other places where football probably just matters a whole lot more, and it leads to more swift decisions and actions. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. I say all that to say this. We've talked about Harbaugh a number of weeks in a row now. I don't really think yesterday changed anything in the sense of what's going to happen from the Michigan side of things. Now, here is a little more nuanced version and a little different avenue you have to go down. We're getting to the end of the 2020 season now. Michigan's not a good football team. Nothing about the rest of 2020 is going to change there. But here's what we do know. He's got 1 year left on his deal, which is 2021. And so as much as I'm telling you, I don't think on Michigan's end they're going to make a move, they do have to make one move. I highly doubt, I would bet you a lot of money, that they are not going to enter the 2021 spring calendar or fall workouts or eventually the 2021 college football season and not have made a public move one way or the other on Harbaugh. And when I say public move, I mean announcing whether you're going to extend him or not. And even if you're not going to in reality extend him, you need to just extend him in window dressing terms because you got a lot of staffs out there that are recruiting against Michigan. Some of you think this matters, some of it doesn't. I happen to subscribe to the theory that it does. Michigan's got a pretty good recruiting class put together right now. Do you understand how easy it is? It's not even negative recruiting, it's just honesty. If I can walk into your living room and say, wait a second, hold up. I am Ohio State, I'm Alabama, I'm whoever you're recruiting against. My coaching situation couldn't be any more stable. And yet, you're telling me you're seriously considering the place where the head coach is about to work out the final year of his deal and no one even knows if he's going to be back? He can't even look you in the eye and tell you where he's going to be next year because his own employer has not found enough confidence in him to extend him. Is that really where you want to be? Okay, oh, that's reality. Again, that's not even negative recruiting. That's just being straight up with a guy. I mean, that's like if you love warm weather and I'm Florida and I'm competing with Notre Dame for your signature, I'm going to show you that the average day in December is like partly cloudy, 34 degrees. I'm showing you that. That's not negative. That's reality. So they've got to make a decision one way or the other on how they are going to present his future to the public. That, I think, is the next step here. Now, that's from the Michigan side of things, because I don't think we're going to enter next year without the public having been informed where they stand one way or the other. But if you're a Michigan fan, or if you're just a curious onlooker, you know there's a second school of thought out there. Because I keep saying from the Michigan side, from the Michigan side, from the Michigan side. Well, there's also another side here, and that's Jim Harbaugh. And there's a school of thought that Jim Harbaugh certainly has not publicly confirmed, also hasn't denied it, should be noted, but he's never confirmed this either. And so there's just wild speculation. And you know us, we're happy to dive into that. There's speculation, there's a school of thought that Jim Harbaugh's just a better fit in the NFL, right? He is a guy that would value strategy and valuing tactics and being a tactician over recruiting and developing and investing all his energy to closing the gap. I would say imaginary, but it's totally real. And that exists in the NFL. Like in the NFL, they build it in order to crunch everyone up in the middle to where the brighter football mind and the better tactician and the better game day coach, like that's the kind of guy who shines in the NFL. In college football, well, if you enter into any given Saturday as the best tactician, but the other guy's got 21 points worth of a better roster than you before they ever kick the ball off, then that's not exactly your environment. So there's this school of thought that Jim Harbaugh is currently coaching in Ann Arbor. But if you've ever pulled up a map of Michigan, not too far down the road from Ann Arbor is Detroit. And Detroit just fired their head coach and GM yesterday, I want to say. And it's the only guy I've ever known that has the last name that matches my mom's first name, which is Matt Patricia. Well, he's out. So he took his pencil behind the ear and he's gone. And now, hey, you want to talk about recruiting? Well, maybe Lions brass goes into Jim Harbaugh's living room and says, not only can we give you the platform that values strategery and a tactical mind, we can also tell you can live in your same house. You don't even have to move. And just instead of driving west to work every day, you just drive east. And we'll give you a commuter card. We'll pay for your parking, well, whatever you need. We'll pay you a lot of money, and we can get you out of that. And you won't look like a failure because you're going from college to the NFL. It just wasn't a good fit. So there's another school of thought that the way that you potentially could have a new coach at Michigan in 2021 would be a mutual parting of ways. I have zero reason to believe that's going to happen, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't happen or couldn't happen. I just don't have any insider knowledge on that. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but I don't. But if that were to happen, and if the Michigan job were open, I want to make 2 points right quick. You don't need to overthink the room here. Matt Campbell, by 10 miles, just as I said, as is the case with Urban and Austin, Matt Campbell's the guy by 100 miles, not just 10, 100 miles. He's the candidate for you at Michigan. He is tearing it up at Iowa State. If you wanna set aside 2 hours of your life, go ask a personnel type or a scouting type in the college or NFL industries about Matt Campbell. Go like this. Go, hey, what do you think about Matt Campbell? And then just put your pencil down, put your phone on silent, cross your arms, and just sit back. Because they're going to go and go and go about how great he is. Every aspect about his strength and conditioning program to his player personnel and evaluations, all that stuff. They will just go on and on and on. And so that would be the guy at Michigan. And secondly, here's the other point I wanted to address. Michigan's a great job. Everybody's going to get hung up on history, and, well, they've never done this, and historically they've been that. Dude, all it takes is the right coach. I've been trying to hammer this home. You never have a generational head coach until you have one. And then when you have one, you do everything you can to keep him and make him happy and give him all the resources. You thought that was Harbaugh at Michigan. At this point, clearly it's not. What if you were just one coach ahead of the curve? And what if this guy, the next guy, after maybe a mutual agreement to part ways, which again, we have no indication to believe is going to happen, just speculation at this point, but if it were to happen, man, he'd tear it up. You want the uh-oh factor? There'd be a lot of collective uh-oh around the Big Ten if Matt Campbell were to all of a sudden waltz to a podium in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with the maize and blue on, probably a sweater, I would guess a sweater at the introductory press conference. Would he bend the bill of the Michigan cap? That I don't know. Like, Bo did it that way. I think Matt would do it that way. But point being, think about what I just said in closing here with this particular point before we talk about a lot of games from yesterday. We are at least entertaining the idea that Texas could come open, Michigan could come open. Ironically, we are not entertaining the idea that Auburn could come open, and that's like an annual rite of passage. If you ever find yourself behind a desk with a microphone in front of you and you're covering college football, Auburn hot seat talk's a staple. You write it in pen on your December calendar every year. Well, we don't have that, but we do have some big jobs that could be in play.